Hello and welcome to episode number 27 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week in the Premier League review, Spurs stop a run of 2 straight defeats with a point in an action-packed North London derby, but wins for Chelsea and United mean the race for the top 4 is heating up. Man City are in pole position for the title, and at the bottom, Fulham and Huddersfield look doomed for the Championship. In the EFL roundup, the leaders in all 3 divisions win and move a step closer to promotion, and Yeovil get 3 points in a 5-goal thriller to move closer to safety in League 2. We have the weekly teaser and an update on the predictions challenge, and this week's special topic is on Fulham. There's plenty to talk about, so let's get started.
Hello and welcome to episode 27 of View from the Sideline podcast. Chris here and Rich is here as well. Hello, Rich.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. You?
I'm good. I'm good because I'm a Spurs fan in the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Very well done.
It's a good time to be a Spurs fan. Thanks. That means a lot.
Yeah. Well, credit where credit is due. We'll crack on and we'll go straight into this week's teaser. So, Rich, as our special topic is around Fulham, this teaser is a kind of a Fulham one related. So, Rich, can you tell me, Fulham have only kept 1 clean sheet all season in the Premier League. Which team has failed to score against them?
Tricky. Assuming they've played this team twice. It was the 1 clean sheet they kept.
It is the 1 clean sheet.
Okay.
It was.
I think it was pretty early. I think it was pretty early in the season.
It was a 0-0 draw. They didn't actually score themselves, but.
Okay.
No.
I will have to have a think. I'm pretty sure I think I've got an idea. It may be a guess, as with every week. But hey, why break the habit?
So we'll move into the Premier League review, and we'll start with the first game of the weekend, which was your team, Rich, Tottenham against Arsenal. I will let you talk about this one just in a second. But it was actually a very good game. I watched the majority of the game. I had to go out, so I missed the sort of last 15 minutes. So I missed all the good bits. I have to say your defending was poor for the first goal. I think there was a bit of a mix-up, maybe slightly. But I'm sure you're going to have your own view on it, and obviously the view on the penalties as well.
Yes, I think lots of talking points. I think that it was good for Spurs to get a point to stop the run of defeats after the defeats at Burnley and Chelsea. I definitely think after the game that Spurs would be happier with a point. As much as it pains me to say, I think Arsenal probably deserved to win. They were the better team on the day. I thought it was a bit scrappy from Spurs, really, and I kind of think that Arsenal didn't let Spurs settle at all. The first goal, I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Seems to be pushed very far forward. All your players.
Yeah, I think they were sort of holding on the halfway line, and then I mean Ramsey got through in a decent finish. I think as far as the talking points go, I think that for the Spurs one, now it was a penalty in the respect of the foul. It was a clear foul in the area, so it was a penalty. But there's no getting away from it. Kane was offside when the free kick came in, and I've heard a lot of criticism about the assistant referee and how he wasn't in line and how he didn't spot it and all sorts of things like that. And I think that this may be a bit of Spurs fan talking, but the penalty was given, so you've got to kind of just move on from it. But I think if the shoe's on the other foot, it is going to annoy you.
It won't happen next season, though, will it? So all this will be.
Well, you say that, you say that, but you don't know, because I mean
Yeah.
it's. I agree with the camp that say it's either offside or it isn't. So not this you're offside by sort of the edge of your boot or something like that. But no, it wasn't a penalty. So I think Spurs got a bit of luck there. At the same time, I'm not convinced that Arsenal's penalty was a penalty. I think that was
Soft.
that was pretty soft, to be fair.
He just touched him slightly,
Um,
wasn't it? But it wasn't
yeah,
enough for anyone to go
and
down.
there's quite a few people that have been saying maybe the ref sort of knew that they'd made a mistake for the Spurs one. I
Rubbish.
don't necessarily believe that. I mean, they were both in the second half, so how he would have known, I've got no idea. So I think justice was probably done with that, with Lloris making the save. And then you've got, which I didn't really notice, to be honest, when I was watching it, the whole Vertonghen encroaching on the penalty. Now, I know the rules are the rules, but I'd sort of challenge anybody to name a penalty that's been taken where there hasn't been a player in the box at the point that the
It
ball's
always happens.
kicked.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
and I
well.
mean, it was an unbelievable block, but there's probably a camp that will say, well, he wouldn't have been in that position if he wasn't encroaching so much. So I don't know. The encroachment on a penalty is almost like the keeper being on his line when the ball's kicked. No keeper's ever on his line
No.
when a penalty's kicked. Or, I mean, you could go to the extent of saying about the quadrant for corners. The ball's never in the quadrant. So I guess it depends how far you want to push it. And the last talking point, I think it was a red card. And
Foot was high. No.
it was
No.
high. It was high, and he caught him high. And I think by the laws of the game that is a red card. A lot of press and that over the weekend, and a lot of pundits have all said that they didn't think it was a red. I personally think it was.
You've seen players get sent off for less than that, so I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know,
So I would have said it was a red. And overall, I think Spurs will be happier with the point than Arsenal. If Arsenal had won that, there would have only been a point behind Spurs, which sort of 3 or 4 games ago, Spurs had, I think it was like a 10-point lead,
points, yeah.
and that would have been cut right down. So, as a Spurs fan, I'm happy with the point. I think we've moved on. Obviously, the Dortmund game last night, I think it just sort of shows how Spurs are doing this season. I mean, every team has a blip. The thing I find annoying, especially when Spurs don't win or they have a couple of defeats in a row, is the press is always about Pochettino and not winning trophies, and he always seems to say something relatively controversial when Spurs are going through a bad patch. Like now he's saying that it's sort of like it will take 5 to 10 years to get Spurs into a title winning team, and the press sort of pick up on that, and all the pundits pick up on that. And when Spurs aren't in a good place, there's an awful lot of press about them. But I think the sort of the performance last night and the win last night, it's almost all forgotten about. So I'd sum it up by saying if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be pretty gutted. I'd be pretty annoyed, but I'm not. I'm a Spurs fan, so I'm happy with a point.
Right, we'll move on to the Bournemouth Man City game. Not the best of games from Man City, but they did what they had to do. Is this the second time they've won 1-0 in a row? I swear they won last weekend as well.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah.
They beat. Who did they beat last week?
It was 1-0. Okay.
Yes, it was West Ham. West
Ham, yeah. They didn't play great. It's not the Man City that we've been talking about, obviously. For weeks on end, where they were winning like 3 or 4-0. I thought Bournemouth played okay. I think they did enough to hold City back from scoring. But yeah, not really too much from a City point of view. I think you'd just be happy with 3 points. They grabbed the win out, and obviously now they're top. So
I didn't think it was the game that a lot of people expected. It certainly wasn't the game that I expected. Bournemouth at home are normally pretty attacking. And I
From
know,
a Chelsea fan, I can say they definitely
yeah,
are.
yeah. And I guess Man City didn't let them play their normal game, but at the same time, I think Bournemouth probably went into it slightly more defensively than they would do normally. I didn't think it was a great game, but I think City are doing what Liverpool aren't. City are winning ugly. They're not winning 3 or 4-0 like we may expect them to. But they're getting the 3 points,
They're
whereas
doing the basics,
Liverpool.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's all they need to do. I mean, I think Boric's got to be disappointed with the goal. I mean, to be beaten
Yeah.
at his near post like that. Um, but I mean, De Bruyne coming off with an injury, we'll have to wait and see sort of
They haven't
how
really
severe
said.
that is.
They haven't said too much about that. Obviously, we're recording it on a Wednesday, and we still don't really know the extent. But he's had
No,
hard luck with injuries, hasn't he, this
he
season?
has, and I don't think that will make or break their season because I mean they've got
So
such
yeah,
quality and
yeah.
such depth in their squad that I don't think it's gonna hinder them that much really if he is out for sort of a long period of time. But they need to get 3 points, and they did. And obviously, playing the day before Liverpool, it put pressure on Liverpool, and it's sort of strange when you think about when they played each other at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the year, sorry. And if Liverpool had won, they would have been 10 points clear. But now, obviously, we'll come on to the Liverpool game
Yeah.
later. But they played the same amount of games, and now City are a point ahead. And I wouldn't like to be chasing City because I
No.
mean they're just winning. I think that's their 5th win in a row since they lost to Newcastle. So that defeat hasn't hampered them at all.
No.
Really, that they're back on form. They're winning, and they're winning without playing particularly well.
Which is what what you got to do, I suppose. It reminds me of what I remember when Chelsea won the league with Mourinho. His second time he won the league with Chelsea, we were winning games 1-0, and as long as you get the 3 points, you don't have to play particularly well, do you? So
No, but I think we're at the stage of the season now where I'm not sure Guardiola's going to be. Obviously, he wants them to play good football, but if they're going to win scrappy games 1-0, we're at that
he's not
stage of
going
the
to be
season.
bothered.
I don't think he's going to be that
No.
worried.
Right, we'll move on to the Brighton Huddersfield game. Again, not the most eventful of games, but a big win for Brighton. This one, I know Huddersfield are bottom of the league, and you probably would have expected Brighton to win, but it could have been one of those games for Brighton. But they got a goal and the 3 points, which obviously makes them a bit more clear from the bottom pack. So
Well, they've been in a bit of bad run of form, Brighton, haven't they? So I think if they hadn't have beaten that, I mean, with the greatest respect to Huddersfield, I almost feel that the majority of the teams in the league think or feel they should be getting 3 points against them. So it is a good win for Brighton, like you say. It moves them that much closer to safety. Huddersfield, I mean, I know it's not mathematically certain, but they've got to be down. I mean,
yeah, I think in their
they're
heads
playing
that they're
okay.
down.
They're just not scoring goals. I know they got the win against Wolves in midweek, but they are just not scoring goals, and that is
I think they've only
their biggest
scored
problem.
14 goals this season. I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. And the one thing that with Huddersfield, and it's normally, I mean, we obviously normally speak very highly of them, and I'm not going to diss them at all, but I have heard that there's a bit of unrest with Jason Punchin, who's gone there on loan, and
Oh,
he's had a bit of a bust up with the manager, and he's been told he won't play for them again. I'm not sure how that
right.
works when you're on loan.
Just
Um,
send him back. Just don't
yeah,
have
but
him
I kind
back.
of think that you bring a player in on loan to play them, and he's not playing him. Obviously, something's happened,
Yeah,
which isn't good, but they must surely be focusing. If I was a Huddersfield fan, I would be. I just wouldn't. I would just be waiting for the end of the season
yeah.
so you can draw a line
Rebuild.
under it.
Yeah, I think that.
Try and rebuild in the summer and then go next year.
Well, I think the good thing for them is that the players that they got, I wouldn't see a mass clear out of players. I think they'd be able to keep hold of most of those players that they got now. So I wouldn't see. too
No, I
many
mean, I think they've
more.
probably got some players on decent salaries that they've
I'm
brought in
sure.
to try and keep them in the division again. But
Sure, the couple players that they bought in on January were probably told that the likelihood is that they wouldn't be in the league
yeah,
next
I mean,
season. So
yeah, you're right. They're not like a Swansea or a Stoke where you could sort of pick off 3 or 4 international players to go back up into. But
no,
only time will tell. I mean,
yeah,
it depends. Players, they've had a taste of Premier League. I mean, you wouldn't blame them for wanting to go back, but all depends who goes up, I guess,
no,
and who stays in the division. But yeah, a good win for Brighton. But I think hope has if it isn't fading fast, it's already faded for
gone.
Huddersfield. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Burnley Palace. Palace a very very strong win here, and I can remember before January we were talking about them not being able to score goals, and now they can't stop scoring goals.
Yeah,
It's
but
just a massive turnaround.
yeah, there's an interesting stat about Palace. So Palace have got I'm sure I've got this right. They've got the second to worst home record in the Premier League, but they have the best away record outside the top 6.
Fair play.
So, but I think this game sort of, if anything, it absolutely proves that point. And I know we said it when they beat Leicester last week, that Palace are just set up to play on the break and to attack teams. And with the pace of Zaha, he scored another great goal.
Did you see what he did to their defence?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still spinning. I think they're still sat on the floor
There's 2 of them
spinning.
on the floor. He
I
literally
think
went back
that
and forth about 3 times, and they still fell for it every time. It was just a
they're
bit
going to
silly.
do well to keep hold of him in the summer. I mean, I think we spoke before about him
spoken,
possibly leaving in January, and I think he I don't know, not too big a signing to go in January, but I know Dortmund showed some interest in him, but they're gonna have their work cut out to keep hold of him because he's had a brilliant season. I mean, the first goal, the own goal. I mean, I don't think there's an awful lot you can do about that. I think it's just it's human nature to sort of stick your knee out, and the fact it goes in is just unlucky. And
Batshuayi's goal was a good goal.
I think that's still going. How that didn't burst the net, that stayed hit. That shot, that was such a good goal.
We'll just get this right. He is still a Chelsea player.
But I don't. Yeah, and I don't understand why they're not using him.
Exactly.
I do not. I mean, he's not going to score them 20, 30 goals, but he's going to do something for them.
When he played for Chelsea, he did score goals, and this is what I can't. And did you see Morata at the weekend scored twice for Atletico Madrid?
Yeah,
and
he
scored
did,
the weekend before as well. So yeah, but I always liked Batshuayi, but he just wasn't.
Where did he go? He was at Dortmund, wasn't he?
He was at the start of the season. He went to Valencia.
Valencia,
for 6 months,
it. Yeah.
But he was at Dortmund last year.
But he scores goals wherever he goes, and he I feel a bit sorry for sort of Benteke and Wickham a little bit, but he's given Palace another dimension,
well,
and
he's leading the line up top, isn't he?
They look a threat. They absolutely going forward. They always look like they've got goals in them, and the form Burnley have been in. I think they'd gone 5 or 6 undefeated, and I've heard some Burnley fans over the weekend just saying the team just weren't at the races in the game. They just
I think that maybe they
not
just got
through lack of effort.
Palace, but they just
but Palace will do that. Palace will do that to a lot of teams.
Maybe they just weren't organised enough. But
no,
I
like Roy Hodgson. I think he's a decent manager. I mean, he had his critics when he was at England, but I don't know an England manager that hasn't really. And I think Palace are safe. I mean, I don't think Palace are going to go down, but they're a team that are going to worry the big teams that they've got left to play. I know sort of United beat them last week, which I don't think many people saw them winning so comfortably, but that was a great win for Palace.
Yeah, good goals. Well, speaking of Man United, they played Southampton. I don't think I've seen a game this season with as many good goals in as this one. It was just like a contest of who could actually score the
It
best
was
goal
like
of
a
this
goal of the
game.
month. It was a game of goal
It,
of the month
it was.
contenders, wasn't it?
I think there's literally at least 3 of the goals in this game are probably the best 3 goals you're going to see this month, if not. But I couldn't figure out which was my favourite. I quite like the free kick.
Pereira's goal
Pereira's
was
goal.
the best for me.
Same, yeah.
That was a beautiful strike.
But there
Great
was a
goal.
talking point in this one about potentially 2 penalties that Southampton should have got in the first half. Both, I believe, were Bertrand. I wasn't too sure on the first one, but the second one, I thought there was enough contact for him maybe to get a penalty. But I have to say, Southampton. Other than that, Southampton did actually play quite well here.
They did. I think there was probably penalties for both sides. And I'm not sure. I don't think Saints deserve to lose the game, to be honest. I think that the things for me in that game is one, how back on form Lukaku is now. I know he scored tonight. I don't know who got
twice.
United. He's got 2.
Twice. Yeah,
so he got 2
both.
against Palace, 2 against Saints, and obviously 2 tonight. And something that I read over the weekend is that he's got them all with his wrong foot. Which
maybe that's his right. Maybe
I think
he
must be left. He must be left-footed.
Maybe he just doesn't know. Just doesn't know.
The 2 he got against Saints were both with his right foot. I mean, the winner was just instinct.
Good finish,
2 very different goals. The first one was sort of very skillful, got himself in the position, and a great shot which bent past the keeper. The second one, he sort of hasn't got any time to think on it. He makes that yard of space for himself. And then it was a great finish. But I do think from a Saints point of view, this is where I find them a bit frustrating, because they can play like that. And the way they played on Saturday, there's no way they should be in the position they're in the league.
No. If they played like that against, the teams around them, they would be not in half the trouble that they are at the moment.
No, I completely agree. I thought they played really well.
They did. But they've got Spurs this weekend, so we'll have to see how that one goes, whether they turn up for that one or whether they don't.
I hope not. I'll be there, Chris.
Oh yeah, I was about to say.
Be there.
I know someone that's turning up. That's you.
Yeah, the podcast will be coming from St Mary's.
Nice. Yeah.
Just on United very quickly, and it's a question that's been going on for a long time, but just quickly from your view, Chris, would you give Solskjaer the job now?
Yes.
Or would you give him the job at all? And if so, would you give it to him now?
I would give him the job, but I wouldn't give him the job until the end of the season. I heard someone today.
There's so many different views on this, but I don't. If you're going to give him the job, I don't know why you don't give it to him now.
The thing is, are they holding? It just seems like they might be holding out for someone else. I don't know.
But I think they'd be crazy to hold out for anybody else.
Is this true? A story that I heard yesterday that he was under contract with Mulder still, apparently.
He's not now.
Yeah, I heard
from what he said. He was under contract with both, but I think he's confirmed now that contract with Mulder's now expired, so it's just United. But I almost think that unless he's been told, because if you're going to give him the job permanently, you would want to start planning for next season with signings and things like that. And I guess there's an element where he can't do that at the moment unless he knows he's getting the job. So I just think if you're going to give it to him, I'd give it to him now.
I heard someone say today that he's failed his biggest test so far, and that was the game against the first leg against PSG.
Right, no, he beat Spurs. That was his biggest test.
But they are winning tonight. But obviously,
I don't buy that. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that would beat PSG. So I don't think you can say that he's failed his. I would give it to him. I'd give it
from me, but
I'd give it to him now personally.
Yeah, it's strange why they haven't, but let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wolves Cardiff.
Yeah. Cardiff are falling apart a little bit. They've lost. I think they've lost a little bit of belief. I don't know. They just don't. obviously last weekend as well, they got a bit of a hiding as well. So
If you pick Cardiff and Saints, which at the moment look like it's one of those two that are going down, I think Cardiff look like the more likely.
yeah, and you wouldn't have said that. You wouldn't have said that like 3 or 4 games.
No, but it's their defending. It's the same story as sort of Fulham and Huddersfield. That it's absolutely the main reason that's let them down. I mean, when they were 2-0 down, sort of so early, and the goals came in such quick succession.
2 goals in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, and that ends up being the final score. I mean, you could see Neil Warnock on the sideline and his reaction. It was almost
like burst.
Yeah, it was almost as if like, why have we bothered coming here? If that's how we're going to defend, then there wasn't really any point in turning up. And I don't really think Wolves had to sort of get out of second or third gear really to win that game. I mean, 2 good goals.
2
you can't deny that, but they certainly got a helping hand from Cardiff's defending.
Just seeing them again on Saturday, it just felt like that they didn't really have anything there. It's just so weird because only 3 weeks ago they won 2 games in a row and everything was looking fine and dandy, but.
Yeah, but that's the trouble though. It is about being consistent, really. And if you look at their sort of next run of fixtures, I mean, they've got West Ham at home Saturday or Sunday. Sunday, I think it is.
Sunday. I think it's
no, Saturday. No, it's Saturday. Sorry, no, 3:00 Saturday. So they've got West Ham at home, and I mean, West Ham on their day, I mean, they'll turn them over. Then they've got Chelsea at home. Then they're away to Man City. So, you could feasibly say they'll come out of their next 3 games with no points. They've still got to play Liverpool. They've got Man United away last game of the season. I mean, I wouldn't fancy.
I think they've got probably that. I don't think Southampton have that hard of a.
No, but I mean, I wouldn't fancy going to Old Trafford on the last game of the season.
Not if they're fighting for 4th and you're fighting to stay in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Saints fixtures, just to compare, so they've got Spurs Saturday, then they've got Brighton, they've got Liverpool. I mean, apart from Spurs and Liverpool, they haven't got anyone in the sort of top 6. They've got Wolves, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Huddersfield. I think Cardiff for the first time. I think they look in a bit of trouble.
Yeah,
which isn't
really
great. It is, but I mean, they may well surprise us. We don't know, so we'll just have to wait and see. Not a great game though.
So the West Ham Newcastle game. I've put 2 things down on this one. Newcastle seem to be very hit and miss at the moment, and Declan Rice. What do you think of him?
He's a player, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's
very promising player.
Yeah, I wonder whether they're. I wonder whether sort of some teams are going to come in for him.
They're going to have their pitchforks out, prodding people away from him because I think the thing is he's young, he's English, and those 2 things alone, and he's got potential. That already instantly makes him a £20 million player in the market. So
yeah, but I think that
very desirable player, I would say.
I think he's almost like Eric. He's almost like Eric Dyer.
He can play in front of the defence as well. He can play centre back and defensive midfield as well, can't he?
Yeah, he does remind me of Eric Dyer when Spurs sort of first signed him from Lisbon, and he's sort of that defensive holding midfielder.
Yeah.
That I think that it's only him and Dyer that can probably play that role. I'm not sure there's many other English players that can.
Do you think he'll get a call up? Because
we're absolutely, especially
season, aren't we?
Without a doubt, and especially because of what's happened. I think the England squad's out next week, but I think. Well, especially what's happened with Ireland.
Yeah.
Especially what's happened with him sort of.
He's turned them down, didn't he? He turned them down.
Yeah, so he's put his allegiances with England. I think that they're going to put him in the squad and give him a full cap before so Ireland can't pinch him back. But yeah, he played well in that game. I do agree with you. I think Newcastle were a bit. They've had a couple of wins, which has got them out of trouble. But I find West Ham quite inconsistent, really. But I think the early goal and then the penalty just before half time, it's sort of, I think it was almost over at half time, really. And I think West Ham, they always seemed in control of it.
Yeah.
And I find an early goal always difficult, especially when you're away from home, because you have to change your game plan so early on that it must sort of disrupt the team, and the sort of the game plan that they've got sort of goes out the window quite early. So I wasn't surprised that West Ham won, really, but
No.
I think that it was probably over at half time. Really, Newcastle didn't really look like they were offering that much.
Is this the England games that are coming up? Is this the first ones for the Euros qualification, isn't it? It is,
Yeah, I think it
So
is.
they
Yeah,
got Czech Republic at
Yeah,
Wembley, and then
I don't think
Montenegro
it's
away.
friendlies. Yeah, I don't
it
think
is.
they're friendlies.
They haven't got a friendly plan this season because they've got the Nations League in June as well.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
remember. So,
That's probably that probably rubber stamps Declan Rice being in it, because it'll be a full international, so he'll be tied to England then.
Cool. So Watford Leicester, Brendan Rodgers' first game in charge. But you know the one thing that got me about this game is he was sat next to Kolo Touré.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's assistant manager, isn't he?
I
Yeah,
had
he's
to
brought
look it
Kolo
up.
Touré with him.
I had to look up.
But I'm not sure their connection. He didn't play under him at Celtic, or did he?
I think he did. I think he played his last games before retiring at Celtic.
No,
but
he didn't. He played it at City because he fell out with Guardiola, didn't he? Yeah, he fell out with Guardiola.
I was there. I was thinking, I swear that was Kolo Touré.
It is.
It just seems like the most unlikeliest of parents you're going to see.
Oh, Kolo Touré. So I'm thinking of Yaya Touré. Sorry, I
After
got the wrong one. Yeah, I got the wrong one.
Yeah,
no, you might be right then.
Side,
yeah, you might be right. Sorry. Yeah.
But it was just strange just seeing him next to him. I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I did hear that he was there. Yeah, on the coaching staff.
Anyway,
I mean, that was a strange game. It was a strange game for me. I
think Leicester. I think they'll be a bit peeved that they drew that. I know they didn't play great, but to let in a goal right at the end was a bit.
No, and I thought that Leicester played pretty well. I thought Maddison was sort of central to everything they'd done. They looked dangerous. Vardy's goal was almost sort of going back to like when they won the title. It was sort of a great through ball. Vardy's pace gets in the gap.
Just quickly, Porto have scored against Roma. So that one's 2-1 now. So
is that level on aggregate? Oh no, 2-0.
3-2, is it, in that one on aggregate?
I can't remember what the score in the first leg was.
Oh no, the first leg was 2-1. No, the first.
So I was going to say, so it's 3-3 now.
Yeah. Carry on.
Interesting. So yeah, the only thing I don't get with this is, so there's an awful lot of talk that Rodgers has taken a step down, leaving Celtic for Leicester, and I think there's probably a lot of people that say that's true. And Robbie Savage, for example, I don't think that. No, I don't, and nor did he. So his view was that as a footballer, you would rather be in a position or playing for a team that had a future to build into sort of a top 6 Premier League club, top 7 Premier League club, as opposed to being at Celtic, where it's almost a given each year that you're going to win. And the level of opposition. I mean, some Celtic fans disagreed with it, and they've got a point. I mean, Celtic are more likely to be playing like... Well, I mean, they're more likely to be playing Madrid or Barcelona or someone like that rather than Leicester, because chances are Celtic will have a much better chance of getting into the Champions League than Leicester will. But I almost think it's too early, because in my mind, Leicester are safe. They're not going down.
No.
So I'm not sure what he achieves between now and the end of the season, because I kind of think that he's got a free pass.
Because he can't really be...
he's not going to get sacked
critiqued
if he loses
on
No,
a quarter of a season, are you?
no,
Let's face
and
it.
a couple more wins, and Leicester are probably going to be more than safe. And even if they have an average run in from now to the end of the season, he's not going to get sacked. And I feel it's a huge summer for Leicester. I mean, even Casper Schmeichel's getting a lot of criticism, which I've not heard before.
No, his goal.
Morgan,
It was his kick, wasn't it, that eventually led
yeah,
to the.
yeah,
The
absolutely. I mean, it was a poor clearance, 3 touches, it's in the back of the
Someone's
net.
hold on to it, isn't it?
I think Morgan at the back's probably going to be off. I mean, there's a lot of talk
He's
about
had his day, hasn't he?
Vardy. I mean, I wonder about Vardy when he
Well,
was on the verge of joining Arsenal, whether he
yeah.
regrets that. Because I
Just
don't think he's not going to get a move like that again.
Just speaking of Vardy, the tackle that Mariappa made on him,
So in the
50-50.
first half,
Yeah, so this is where he potentially could have got through on goal.
yeah,
It's hard to tell. I know
he was
he's
coming in
quick,
at an angle.
but there was another defender there as well. But would he have caught Vardy? But I don't think as a referee, I don't think you kind of.
I don't think it was a red.
It's
I
not
don't think it was
race,
a
is
red.
it? Yeah, I didn't think it was a red, but some people have said that it might have potentially been a red.
Yeah,
Fans.
no, I wouldn't personally, but I think on the other side of this, I mean, I'm not Brendan Rodgers' biggest fan. I'm so down the middle about whether it's a step down or not. I think that there's a lot of Celtic fans saying that he did it in the wrong way because he didn't say goodbye. The club didn't announce that he was talking to Leicester or anything. He sort of just went out the back door. I think he'll be all right for Leicester, but I do think it's going to be a massive summer for them. But on the flip side of this game, I think Watford deserves so much credit. They've turned into this season such a good side.
They are technically, I suppose, the best of the rest, if you get what I mean. Out of the top 6 teams, they are
winning the Everton Cup. Is
the
what people
7th.
say.
Yeah,
I think Troy Deeney. I mean, I think he's having a fantastic season, and I'm surprised no one's sort of talking about him going into the England squad when you've got people like was it Wilson or King at Bournemouth that was in the last squad. I wouldn't be surprised if Troy Deeney was called up at all, and I think Andre Gray's having a great season. I mean, his
Deeney
goal
gives you a lot of strength, doesn't he? At the top,
he does, and Gray's goal was when he got the ball, his first touch and his finish. I mean, it was a great goal.
Just quickly going on to you saying Deeney maybe getting a call up. What do you think about Vardy?
I just think Vardy.
Do you think he'll be called up?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
from what I hear, Gareth Southgate is a very sort of he won't pick it on name, he'll pick it on performances sort of manager.
Yeah, but Vardy's still scoring goals.
I know he's still scoring goals, but I don't think he's been anywhere near as good as what he's been.
No, he hasn't. But he gives you something that no other England striker does in the regards of his pace. Well, I know Rashford does, but depends whether he wants to play Rashford up front. Yeah. If you want an answer, no, I don't think he'll be in the squad.
No, I don't think so either.
But it'll be an interesting summer for him as well. I think his any potential moves to the top 6.
You're right in saying what you said about Arsenal, but he won't get a move like that.
No, he won't. No, he won't get a move to any of the top 6.
No. Anyway, Fulham Chelsea.
Yes.
Obviously, Fulham under Scott Parker now. They didn't actually play that bad, to be honest with you. I thought, personally, I thought the game was going to be a little bit easier than what it was. But Chelsea being Chelsea, they like to make things very easy for themselves. So.
No, but the second half, you were under an awful lot of pressure.
Especially last 10 minutes. They had a goal disallowed. Mitrovic probably should have scored his header.
Yeah.
They went for it at the end, and credit to them. Problem is with Chelsea, they just sat back too much. They went 2-1 up and then kind of just let Fulham come at them. But
it was a game of 2 halves, that's for sure. I think Chelsea
were at the end of the day.
Well, yeah,
I take 3 points.
Higuain's goal was a good finish. I'm
that's
still
what
not
he's there.
convinced.
That's why
Yeah,
he's
but you
there.
say that, but he's got 3 goals, all 3 of them against the bottom 2 of the table.
All right, mate.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm not his biggest fan. I think that Chelsea have bought.
He told me that he listens to the podcast and that he's not.
I'm sure he
You're
does.
not
I'm
as
sure
pleased
he
with
does.
him.
I think they've bought a name with Higuain. I don't think they've bought the player that he was.
They've bought him thinking that that's what Sarri wanted because that's what Sarri had at Napoli. But this was 2-3 seasons ago.
Well, yeah. If you were playing
the
Fulham
Italian
and
team's
Huddersfield every
completely
week, you'd be all right because that's all he scored against. But I mean, it was a good finish. You can't take that away. But I think second half, Fulham probably deserved a point. I think they'll be disappointed to come away with a defeat, really. But I mean, Scott Parker's, whether it's the new manager bounce or not, I think that he's almost taking it back to basics. I think he realises that
he made 2 changes to the team that apparently that the fans are very happy about. I think is it Kenny and McDonald?
Yeah. But that's bringing it back to the Championship, isn't it? Which is what they were talking about.
The side only had a couple players in that didn't play from last year or something. I can't remember what it was. But do you think that he is in the position, Scott Parker, that he probably knows that they're going to go down?
I think everyone at the club probably knows they're going to go down. I don't.
That's why they changed the manager now.
Yeah,
fearing that Ranieri might just leave.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I kind of. Well, let me take that back. Actually, I don't think anyone there probably thinks they're going to go down. I think that they will, like Huddersfield, they will keep going until it's mathematically impossible for them to stay up, and that they're sort of confirmed as going down. But I think that if they were to go down, I feel that Scott Parker would be the right man to take that forward, to take them forward. I think Ranieri is probably a bit of a gamble for them, where they thought he was going to come in and do something a little bit different and sort of change their fortunes. But I know it's one game, but I kind of feel that what Scott Parker's shown in that one game is
what Premier League record with managers. Not their last 6 managers in the Premier League haven't lasted more than an average like 14 games. Not great, is it?
No, but the story with Ranieri, because Parker was his last signing for Chelsea.
So Jokanovic was his first signing for Chelsea,
and Parker was his last.
Parker was his last.
Yeah.
And here's a little side note for you. Scott Parker's never played for you before you say anything, but he was at Chelsea when they won the league. But he didn't actually get a medal because he didn't play enough games for the club. But the club gave him a replica medal. Look.
Oh, replica medal.
Yeah, so nice. They made him special Scott Parker medal.
Oh, I mean, all your dreams come true.
But yeah, it's a little side note. But anyway, we got the 3 points. We got the win. That was all that I wanted. To be honest with you, I'm not fussed how we play. We can play as bad as we want, but as long as we win, I'm not fussed. Anyway,
good attitude. Good attitude there, Chris.
Last game on Sunday. Again, billed to be one of the best games of the weekend, and we get hugely let down. In the words of Jurgen Klopp, the weather let that game down.
Well, I mean, there's some excuses, and then there's some excuses.
That's the second weekend in a row they failed to score a goal.
Yeah, you can go at this at various angles. I mean, I'm gonna break tradition here, and I'm gonna praise Everton. I thought Everton played exactly how they should have played to get something out of that game. I think if they had gone toe to toe with Liverpool, I think there would only have been one winner. And the biggest difference that I saw in that game from Everton previously, I know they got the win against Cardiff, but they defended really, really well, which is one thing that I don't think that you can really label Everton with so far this season.
No.
And I thought that although Salah sort of missed some gilt-edged chances, at least 2 or 3, I thought that Liverpool didn't really. They didn't look at the races, much like City didn't with Bournemouth, but City
got
managed to get the win. Yeah,
I would say this. I thought against Man United last week, I thought Liverpool were the better team, but I would say this week, although Everton didn't have the same amount of chances as Liverpool, I would still say Liverpool, I thought, were the better team on the day.
Oh yeah, they were the better team. I don't think there's any denying they were the better team. The one thing I think Liverpool miss, and it was highlighted at the weekend because they had Henderson and was it Fabinho?
Correct.
In the centre of midfield, and although they, I mean, I kind of think that Fabinho is more of sort of maybe a holding midfielder, and Henderson, he's got a decent passing range, but they almost need that sort of drive in
passing backwards, Henderson,
or sideways. Yeah, there's no one better. But I think they almost need that sort of driving mid. And I hate to say it, but he has had a great season. It's almost like a Sissoko.
Yeah.
Or a Dembele, and they I don't know whether that was sort of what Keita was meant to give them, and I know he didn't play, but it's almost like they need that driving force from midfield that's going to push them forward when they need it.
Strange that Origi started as well. Didn't expect him to start, to be honest with you, but
well, Firmino was he was on the bench, wasn't he? I mean, one of the best things for that was when that fan gave Firmino her baby for a photo when he was on the bench. I just thought that was brilliant. He was so eager for it. He was standing up, sort of saying like, "Pass me the baby, pass me the baby." I thought that was brilliant. But I'm not sure who else would have played if he wasn't fully fit. I mean, Origi played okay against Watford, but he's not. Nothing against the guy. He's not sort of Liverpool level. He's not. I don't think he's a top 4, top 6 sort of player really.
No.
But yeah, not great for Liverpool. But I agree with Klopp. I mean, the weather was awful, and without doubt, it was the weather that caused them to drop points there. It was terrible. I feel sorry for all the players.
He had a bit of a go at one of the reporters, didn't he, after the match? I saw in the press conference.
But did you see him with the ball boy?
Is this when the ball boy was clapping it?
Yeah. That was brilliant. You could just sort of see that Klopp just wanted to like give him a clip round the ear, but he just could not do it. But I mean, the ball boy had some balls, that's for sure.
Anyway,
so yeah,
that was the Premier League. Going to go straight into the EFL with Rich with the Championship.
Yes, so in the Championship there were wins at the top for Norwich. They got a 3-1 win away at Millwall. That was 1-1 at one point, but Norwich came back to claim the 3 points. Leeds won 4-0 against West Brom. I think that was on Friday night, that one.
It was, yeah.
I think Leeds scored after like a minute or so. It was that they got off to a flying start, and I mean, especially against West Brom, who are a team that are obviously fighting for a playoff place. That was a great win for Leeds. Sheffield United in third. They dropped 2 points in the Sheffield derby on Monday night, so that was a 0-0 draw against Sheffield Wednesday. Middlesbrough in fourth, but like I said, they lost to Leeds. Middlesbrough are in fifth, and they drew at the weekend, so they lost ground. They drew 0-0 away at Wigan. And Bristol City make up the last playoff place in sixth. They also drew at the weekend. They drew 1-1 with Preston. But they are now level. I just want to get this right. Sorry, because Derby played last night and they beat Wigan 2-1. So Derby have played a game more, but they are now level on points with Bristol City. So Derby are in seventh. Then it's a 4-point gap after that, which is to Birmingham in eighth. So, I mean, there's still quite a few games to go in the Championship, but the sort of top 7 are pulling away a little bit. But eighth 9th and 10th are all on 50 points. So Birmingham, Nottingham Forest and Hull, but so they're by no means out of it. At the bottom, Ipswich are still rooted to the bottom, and they lost at the weekend. They lost 2-1 at home to Reading, which actually lifted Reading out of the relegation zone. So, not a great result there for Ipswich. Bolton, who are second to bottom, they lost as well. They lost 2-0 away at Swansea and had 2 men sent off. So it's not looking great for those two at all.
Well,
So
Ipswich are pretty much.
Yes,
they can't have long left, surely. Now.
Well, Ipswich are on 21 points, so they're 12 points off safety. So Reading are in 21st on 33 points. So
that was a must-win game for Ipswich, then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think probably 2 or 3 more games if results go against them. I think they'll be down. Bolton aren't much better, to be honest. So they're 7 points from safety. So they're on 26 points. Rotherham, they make up the relegation zone, but they beat Blackburn 3-2 at the weekend, which was a good result. And as we said, Reading beat Ipswich 2-1. And then above that, you've got Millwall, Wigan, QPR and Blackburn, who all lost. Blackburn surprised me. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, they were sort of in contention for a playoff spot. Now they're sort of down in 17th and sort of don't have an awful lot to play for. Game of the day for me over the weekend, obviously Derby have played since, but it's got to be Villa against Derby, so 4-0, but it was 4-0 at half time.
John Terry versus Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've seen Jack Grealish's goal.
I have seen it, yeah.
Yeah, what a goal.
From a corner, wasn't it? It was a corner.
Yeah, it's very like Paul Scholes-esque. I wonder if Spurs will go back in for him in the summer, obviously because they were pretty close to signing him last year, but ended up signing no one. So I wonder whether they'll go back in for him. I mean, the bottom of League One, the Championship, is probably, I'd say Bolton and Ipswich are sort of the same as Fulham and Huddersfield. It's only a matter of time. But at the top, Norwich have got a 2-point lead on Leeds, and with Sheffield United dropping points, Norwich are now 5 points. 4 points, inside the automatic promotion places. It'd be good if Norwich. I like Norwich. It'd be good if they go back up. So on to League One. So the top 4 teams all won over the weekend. Leaders Luton, they maintained a 5-point lead at the top. They won 2-0 at home to Rochdale. Second place Barnsley beat Southend 3-0 away, and that was despite going down to 10 men when Jacob Brown was sent off in the 35th minute, and the score was 0-0 at the time. So even with 10 men, Barnsley went on to win 3-0. I think Barnsley are undefeated in something like 18 games, which is unbelievable. They're in second. Sunderland, they're in third. They got their 3rd win in a row, beating Plymouth 2-0 at home. And 4th place Portsmouth got their 1st win after 4 successive draws. They thrashed Bradford 5-1 at Fratton Park. Charlton and Doncaster make up the playoff places, but they both drew. So the top 4 are going good in that division, especially Luton and Barnsley, top 2. At the bottom, Wimbledon got a point. They drew 0-0 away at Shrewsbury, and they're now only 3 points behind Bradford after their defeat at Portsmouth, and only 4 behind Rochdale after they lost to Luton. So a few weeks ago, we were sort of talking about Wimbledon being sort of cut adrift, but they're right back in it. So it's not over yet. Yeah. Bristol Rovers, they make up the relegation places, but they they did their chances the world of good of staying up. They won 4-0 at home to 10th place Blackpool to close the gap to only. How can you have a lucky 4-0 win? But yes,
it's the wind.
So they closed the gap to only 2 points between themselves and Walsall, who are in 20th. There was a total of 31 goals across the 12 League One games over the weekend. So nearly 3 goals a game. So very entertaining indeed in League One.
So
come on, Chris, tell us about Yeovil. That's all we want to hear.
I'll get to you. I'll get to Yeovil in a minute. So there is no change in the top four, as all four teams at the top of League 2 won. Lincoln beat Forest Green 2-1. They came from a goal down in that game. Bury beat Macclesfield in a comfortable 3-0 result. Mansfield beat Cheltenham 4-2. Mansfield were 2 up in that one, then Cheltenham got it back to 2-2, but 2 late goals for Mansfield secured the win for them, and MK Dons beat Crawley by a goal to 0. Exeter remain in 5th despite losing 1-0 to Tranmere, and with that win, Tranmere have actually moved into the playoffs now. They're up to 6th, and the final playoff is for Forest Green. They're 7th. They lost to top side Lincoln. Now for the bottom, Notts County remain bottom, although they did pick up a point against Port Vale, who find themselves just outside the relegation zone now. So Port Vale are getting sucked into that. Macclesfield, worst defeat since Sol Campbell took over. So, sees them remain in 20. It seems like I'm saying this every week. That
Times were so good for them.
Yeah,
when he
Notts
first
County
joined.
bottom, Macclesfield second from bottom. That hasn't changed for like 4 or 5 weeks now.
Mm.
So they lost 3-0 to Bury, but Bury are playing very well at the moment. Bury actually played last night as well. They drew 1-1.
Yeah, I saw the game last night.
On to Yeovil. Another win for Yeovil, and that pushes them 6 points clear now of the relegation zone. So,
and an
an
award, Chris. Tell everyone about the award for Yeovil.
I saw on Twitter today that Downway got given the EFL Manager of the Week.
Manager of the Week.
That's what you get when you leapfrog Morecambe. And
everybody's dream.
Yeah.
Manager of the Week.
Well, they beat the team around them, which is, I think, the main thing. This happened last season, though. They started well, and then middle of the season, not great, like 1 win in 13, and then all of a sudden, towards the end of the season, when they actually realised, we better start playing now because we're in trouble. They start winning games.
Well, as long as they get to enough points to stay up, Chris, I think that's probably all they want.
So that was League 2, and that is the end of part 1. So coming up in part 2, we have Rich has got an update on the predictions. We take a look at our special topic, which is Fulham, and I have the teaser answer for Rich. So we'll see you in part 2.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. Just going to give a quick update on predictions. So last week we had a three-way tie, so 20 points between each of us. So John was our guest last week. So he moves into the top section of the table, so joint third. After a decent score of 20, I'd say. Jamie's still top on 30. I was looking at this earlier. I think it was week 5 he did it. It was really early on, and we're sort of into the 30s now, obviously because of the midweek predictions. I can't believe he's still up there, and no one's sort of challenging him. But
I've got people queuing to do it, mate. So
have we really?
Short on people. Yeah, I've got at least 3 or 4 people that have asked to do it. I just don't think they want Jamie winning this. But everyone's struggling to get anywhere. Like there's been weeks where I can't remember who it was, but someone had a really good score at half time. I can't remember who it was. I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, but it was
James.
Yeah, he had
at half time he was
like
about
40 points,
30 or 40 points. Yeah. Okay, well I'm sure. I mean, this week we got Liam, who's a Villa fan, so we've got the Birmingham Villa game in there. He's gone for a conservative draw, so we'll see how he gets on. But we're coming to the latter stages of the season now. So if anyone does want to get involved and have a chance of winning the prestigious View from the Sideline Predictions Challenge trophy, which will be revealed in due course, then then let us know. Just drop us a note for any of the social media channels.
I'm just waiting to finish my cereal so I can use the cereal box.
Yeah. We're going to Blue Peter style
Blue
it.
Peter, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's still time to get involved. Like we say, 30 is the score to beat. And you can win
which
stuff.
on paper doesn't seem that hard to achieve. That's 3 correct results, but trust me, I think we've only hit 33 times each, isn't it? I think it was
yes,
twice or 3 times. So
yeah, I think we can safely say from doing this week in, week out, and our averages being around 16, that it's not as easy as
and we've only
might
had a
think.
couple people get 25, haven't we? We've only had 2 or 3 people, I think it is. So
No, well, we've got four people that
Oh,
got 25. Only one that's got 0. So you
that
can
was
go the
Adam.
other way.
Wasn't that Adam?
It was, yeah. You can be the second person to get 0. So
Yeah.
if you want to get involved, let us know. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. So just let us know. So yeah, like I say, Liam is our guest this week. We've got the Saints Spurs game in there as well. I'm going to that, Chris. I don't know if I told you. So I will be there. So yeah, that's predictions. We will get this week's matches are online now, and we'll get the results on over the weekend, and then we'll be going again next week, right up until the end of the season. And let's see if Jamie can hold that position. So, special topic this week, Chris, is around Fulham.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Well, I think we'll just start by saying, are we both in agreement that we believe that Fulham will be relegated this season? I am.
Yes, I think we're going to have to say that.
Down. So I think it all starts at the start of a season, but it actually starts sooner. It actually starts before that with these signings that they've made. So I think it's been very vocal about how many players that they bought in, and they've spent over £100 million. And the team, they've basically bought a team for the Premier League, but what they've actually done is that they've bought individual players that have very, very struggled to gel as a team. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm just gonna go back to our very first episode of the podcast when we did our predictions, and the one area with regards to relegation that you and I disagreed on was you had Saints to go down and Fulham to stay up, and I went the other way, where I thought Fulham may struggle. And I think you've got to kind of look back to then, when with the money that they spent. When you're talking about a team that gets promoted to the Premier League and they spend over 100 million, you almost kind of get lured into the perception that they're gonna stay up, because they've obviously bought players of a certain quality. But just to go through the list, and you'll have to apologise about some of my pronunciation.
I've seen Anguissa. I saw his name on there.
Yeah, so Anguissa, 22.3 million.
He was the most expensive, wasn't he?
No, Seri was the most expensive.
Oh, Seri, 30 something odd.
25. I'll read them out, Chris, because you're getting the wrong numbers and the wrong players. And you can let us know how many of these are played for Yeovil. Mitrovic, 22 million. Alfie Mawson, 15. Lemachan, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. Excuse my French. 7.5 million. Joe Bryan, 6. Obviously Ryan Babel's come in at 1.8. He probably looks the most value for money. Fabry, 5 million. I mean, I'd like to think of myself as a relatively knowledgeable person on football. I've heard of Mitrovic, Mawson, and Babel. They're the only three people that I've heard of.
Was it Byram?
Joe Byron, yeah.
Yeah, he came. I believe he came from Bristol City. I believe.
Okay, but I mean, you've got a kind of. I can almost compare it to like when Spurs sold Gareth Bale, and I know there's sort of more household names now, but
Spelt well.
well, apart from Ericsson
Ericsson was the
was good
best of the
money,
bunch.
and probably Lamella. I mean,
Lamella,
we
yeah.
probably sell him for a profit. The rest were, I mean, Capu's still doing all right. But I just think that the one thing that I absolutely 100% agree with is that the worst thing that Fulham, and maybe it's with an element of hindsight, the worst thing Fulham could have done was rip up the team that got them to where they were. And if you look at Fulham's rise up through the Championship last year to get promotion, I think at one point they were sort of mid-table, and then they went on an amazing run, which got them into the playoffs. They ended up winning the playoffs, and they're into the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think it was almost a case where they didn't have confidence in the team that they had, and that it was going to keep them in the division. So it wasn't panic buying, but it was almost like we've got to strengthen, but we've got to strengthen to such an extent that we're almost changing our team. We're changing the nucleus of the team that got us to this position.
But when you look at the other two teams that came, I know Wolves spent big, but they have managed to buy players that I think that they knew would gel well as with their team. And Cardiff just didn't really buy anyone at all. They just kept pretty much 90% of what they already had.
But
So
do you not think that Wolves were just better equipped as they were already to come up into the Premier League?
Wolves have the best squad in the Championship last
I think that's where Fulham didn't think that they did have a good enough squad to stay in the division, and I think that's almost why they just went out and bought all of these players. And if I remember, did they not use? They used 3 goalies in the first 6 or 8 games, something like that.
So they used 3 goalies in their first 8 games, and they didn't stick with the same defence until the 13th game of the season. It took 13 games.
Oh man, that's just crazy.
And you actually try and think as to why they concede so many goals. But when surely by the 4th or 5th game you would know your best defence, not 13 games, which is just they've conceded so many goals, and we've seen them defend, and they just don't.
No, they don't.
Look like they play with each other. So.
Do you not think that it was because I'm being really conscious here not to look at Fulham's early results, because I'm going to find the answer to the teaser. But do you not think that the reason they chopped and changed so much is because they were conceding goals?
Well,
and he was trying to find the formula that would stop them conceding goals, because
it got out of control. I don't even know how you can have that many conversations. But
no, but I mean, I remember early in the season, my view on Fulham was that they play good enough football to stay in the Premier League, and I think that in a funny sort of way, that's almost been their downfall, because they haven't tried to be more solid, if that makes sense. They've almost continued to try and play the way that you expect Fulham to play, even though they're in serious trouble, and they almost just need to adopt a sort of Wimbledon sort of in the 80s 90s style, where they're just extremely hard to beat and it's not pretty. But maybe they couldn't adopt that style of play. I'm not sure.
I think Mitrovic is probably, for me, the best player that they signed, and I think out of all the players they signed, he was probably the most well known, obviously playing for a Premier League team beforehand. And like you said, Babel, who's come in, I thought he played well actually against Chelsea at the weekend. They've obviously gone through a few managers this season. Jokanovic being the first, Ranieri, and now Parker. I don't think that helps the team personally. I think you get to know a manager, and you get to know their style of how they want to play, and then obviously to then have to play in a completely different way. I think that probably harms more than it helps, I would say. For me, it probably would anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just on Babel, I mean, I'm not. in January, I mean, he's not going to come in on his own and sort of single-handedly keep them up.
No.
I mean, he's a decent player, and he has sort of given them a new
I didn't
dimension.
realise he was 35. I didn't realise he was that old.
I thought he was younger than that.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Man United have scored.
have they really?
Man United have scored. Rashford has scored a penalty.
Oh, so they're going through.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my days.
this is not good news. Well,
Who's given away a penalty in the 92nd minute?
It is for English football. It's not good news for us tomorrow. Old Hunter's going to have a field day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So, but and again, I agree with you on with Mitrovic. He's the player that Huddersfield and Cardiff don't have. That give Fulham that edge, but Fulham are just so poor defensively that it almost voids out what he gives them over the other two, which is a shame. I mean, what I will be interested in is what happens to Fulham sort of over the next sort of 6 to 8 months with the owner, and I mean he's put money into the club. There's no denying that. Obviously, he tried to buy Wembley and that. So I would assume that he's not.
He's well equipped, let's say, with money.
He is, and it would almost give you the impression that he's in it for the long haul, and he wants to make Fulham as successful as they can be.
What happens to the 15 players that they've signed? I don't.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because I mean, what's he gonna if they do end up getting relegated? What's going to happen in the summer? I mean, I would imagine they're going to have to sell to buy, which may not be a bad thing, because if they can recoup as much as possible for these people that they've bought,
yeah,
then they might have a decent chance of coming straight back up. But I'm not sure they're going to keep the same squad together, and he's going to go, oh, by the way, here's another 50 million.
He's going to lose. He'll lose the key players. I think. I don't know whether they'd be able to keep
Mitrovic, for example.
Yeah,
but where would he go? I'm not sure where. I don't know. Maybe if you've got a Norwich or a Leeds coming up, I mean, maybe he might go somewhere like that. And it's like Callum Chambers. I mean, I know he's on loan, but I mean, would he stay there? Because I can't see him getting in the Arsenal side. A fact about Callum Chambers for you, Chris. Do you know he scored 4 Premier League goals, and each one has been for a different manager? Did you know that? So there you go.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I know he's
good fact for you.
It
was a good goal as well. It was a good goal.
Crap defending, but
what happens to him? Because I mean, like I say, realistic. I can't see him getting back into the Arsenal side. So does he stay there on loan, or does he go somewhere else on loan? And Sessegnon, if you sort of think back 12, 18 months, I mean, Spurs were pretty close to signing him. There was a lot of big teams interested in him.
I would still say he's probably well sought after. He's an English
so does he
left-back,
leave?
so.
I mean, does he leave? Because having a taste of the Premier League, I mean, you've got to imagine that he's going to want to get back to that level. That's where he's going to want to be playing. So
I don't know what's happened in this Man United game, mate, but they're in the 98th minute.
Oh, well, they're using VAR, aren't they? Maybe something's happened.
Anyway, yeah.
Porto Roma's gone to extra time.
Yeah,
then.
I think we both agreed that Fulham are down. That they're in trouble. But I think you're right that they are probably going to have to recoup some of the money that they've spent. And from what I understand, most of the team that got them up are still there. So they've got.
They're just not playing. But I think
got the team there to try and get them back up. But like you said, I'm sure that they'll probably invest in some more players. But it's trying to keep hold of their key players like Mitrovic. I don't know how long Babel's signed for.
I fear for Fulham in the respect of I think they could end up like Stoke,
Sure.
or maybe even Villa or Swansea, where I mean there's almost an assumption that if you're a Premier League side and get relegated, that you're the three best teams equipped to go straight back up. But I think
not
that
necessarily.
I don't think that's the case at all.
Well,
and I think
no.
Stoke's probably I had Stoke to win the Championship, and they're sort of languishing in the bottom half.
Such
And
a hard
I
league to get
wonder.
out of, isn't it?
It is. Was that a plug for the blog on the website there, Chris? Good plug. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But I do fear for them. I think if they go down, I think they're, unless sort of they buy the right players, they rotate the squad in the right way. Maybe Scott Parker would be. I like Scott Parker. Maybe he'd be the person to bring them back up. But I don't see them coming back up straight away. I might be wrong, but I think this season's probably hit them hard. And I'm not for a second saying that if they had kept with the team that got them promoted, they would have been okay in the Premier League and they would have stayed up. We'll never know that.
No.
But obviously the position they're in, all the fingers are going to point to the fact that they've pretty much dismantled that team, and they've rebuilt 3/4 of it. That's one of the main reasons, and especially the Chelsea game, because Scott Parker went back to basics a little bit with it and brought some of those players back into the team, and they did, and because they played well, the argument for the fact that they should have just stuck with what they knew is sort of more highlighted, I think. But yeah, I'd agree. I mean, until it's certain, we don't know. But I think they're in trouble, and I think a lot of Fulham fans have probably accepted the fact that they are probably doomed, which is a shame.
Yeah. Right. Teaser answer.
Yes.
Go on then. And Man United have won, by the way.
They have. They're through.
They played 100 minutes in that game, so I don't know what happened.
Well,
but the
fair play.
Yeah.
Fair.
Well,
You've got to give Solskjaer the job now.
He's passed his test.
You've got to give him the job.
Teaser answer. Porto Roma game is going extra time. So
okay. Teaser answer. I'm going to guess, and I think it was away from home, and I think they drew Newcastle. Newcastle away.
It was Newcastle.
Get in. There was an element of guess around that, and that's because we were talking about Mitrovic, and I thought he used to play for Newcastle. Correct. So there you go. That was a good one.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, Chris. I'll take that.
Right. So, is there anything else that you would like to add this week before we leave?
Just very quickly. So you may have seen online, and we just mentioned it then. So we have got a new blog entry on the website. For those of you that don't know about the website, so it's everything about the podcast really. But we do have a blog on there with various entries on there. And we've just published a new one this week, which is around the Championship, and the quality of the league and the excitement of the league and where it sort of sits within other leagues around Europe, which has had a pretty decent response since we put it out. So if you haven't seen it yet, just go to the website, www.vftsl.co.uk, and you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to see all details about the predictions, all the other blog entries, a little bit about myself and Chris. So yeah, take a look.
So.
Oh, and I'm going to Spurs Saturday. So
going to Spurs. So you're
next week, next week we'll be putting some stuff online, hopefully around that sort of my travels to St Mary's to hopefully see Spurs win. So I should be able to give a pretty decent match report on that one. Fingers crossed.
So they don't lose. That'd be a
yes.
shame, wouldn't
it? Let's hope they don't. I'm in the Saints end, so I can just cheer.
Look for Rich. He's, just about 6 foot, I would say. Dark hair.
Are you 6 foot? Do you not know? Have you never met me?
Yeah.
I'm not 6 foot, Chris. No, I'm 6'4".
6'4".
Yeah.
Black hair. Little
graying slightly. A bit
He'll
of
be the one.
Ravanelli.
He'll be wearing a fake mustache and glasses, and have a
Yeah.
newspaper in front of him with 2 holes in it. That'll be
Yeah.
Rich. Say hello to Rich. Anyway, that is it for this week. So I will
Yes.
see you next week.
Yeah. Speak to you later. Bye.